now we've reached number 8 and number 9, and I believe these two can be tied together as well. Number 8 is not having enough accountability, and number 9 is not having enough support. And oftentimes, these are kind of a combination. I'll give you an example again from my own life. Before, when I was hiding my opioid addiction from my family and from my other loved ones and friends, I didn't have to be accountable to anybody because nobody knew that I was on anything. So even when I set these goals for myself of, okay, when I have this 3-day weekend coming up in 2 weeks, I'm going to get some Imodium AD and I'm going to try and, go get some Valium or some other type of benzo from someone. And I'm going to have this 3-day weekend. I'm going to try to do this all on my own. A lot of times when it came time to that 3-day weekend or 2-day weekend, or whenever the time period was, since nobody else knew that that was my goal to detox that specific weekend, that week, since nobody knew except for me, guess how easy it was for me to say, this isn't the best weekend. I can do it next week, or, a month will be a much better time. And that very, very well may have been true. Might have been easier if I had, 1 month in the future for whatever reason. But a lot of times I was just rationalizing. It was denial. It was self delusion. And so I didn't have any accountability from anybody because nobody knew. I also didn't have any support, emotional support, other types of support, practical support. I didn't have any of that either because, again, nobody knew. It was my dirty little secret that was keeping me sicker and sicker and sicker and sicker. So there's so much healing power in the truth and in surrendering, or, just really just, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to get accountability, meaning you have at least one person that knows your situation, that is understanding and compassionate about it, that will help to hold you accountable. They know what you're going through and they know your goals regarding timelines and everything. And they also give you support. One of my favorite quotes is that accountability is the glue that ties commitment to results. If you're committed to doing something, but you don't have anybody to be accountable to, oh man, that commitment's not going to be anywhere near as effective and efficacious and powerful is when you tie together, when you get that synergistic combination of commitment and that resolve that I want to do this, and you multiply that with accountability and support, woo, exponentially increases success rates. At least from what I've seen out there, uh, if I had to guess, having effective accountability and support when you're going through the process of coming off Suboxone completely and permanently, I would say that it's probably has to increase success rates by at least 8 times, if not 10 times or more. Uh, I haven't seen people that don't have any accountability or support quit Suboxone or quit other opioids in general for that matter at nearly even close to the same success rates as I've seen people transition off these medicines for good, uh, where they actually have the accountability and they have the support. A lot of times it's a loving, compassionate spouse. That's the most often, at least that I've seen. And gosh, that support and that accountability from a spouse or boyfriend or a girlfriend or a close friend or a counselor or a coach or a therapist or a 12-step group or a smart recovery group. There's so many different types of accountability and support. They usually come as a package deal. Usually, um, at least accountability, there's usually support. Maybe you can have support that's not also an effective form of accountability. That's the other thing with accountability is what works for one person to help them remain accountable won't necessarily work for everyone. As a matter of fact, it probably won't work for a lot of people. So, kind of gauging exactly what you need, you can do this process of deep breathing, maybe put some relaxing music on. If you don't currently have support or accountability, just start freestyling in a journal or digitally somehow, and just start going like, what is the support and accountability that I can get that resonates with me and that makes a lot of sense for my individual, very unique situation? And then start listing the ways. I've already mentioned, a bunch of them. 12-step groups. Celebrate Recovery, which is the faith-based one, very high success rates when you get the power of God in it. People that go to the faith-based ones seem to have really high recovery rates. They seem to be very helpful at accountability and support and getting people to, they're basically learning how to live in the teachings of Jesus Christ, which is, that's a very peaceful, surrendering, loving way to live. And when you combine that with a group of people that are going through the same process and group leaders and sometimes counselors in that case, that works very well for some people. But guess what? The faith based recovery support groups, they're like horribly effective, not effective at all for certain people. They just don't have that same belief system, which is totally fine. Maybe for this particular example, the person loves the idea of smart recovery groups, which is self management and recovery training. It is not spirituality or religious based or anything like that. There's no talk of higher power. So maybe some people would resonate more with that. Other people, they don't even want to tell anyone in their family because they just know their family, and they know their family would judge, maybe because of their background. Maybe they're ignorant on addiction and how it's not actually a moral failing, but something much more out of the person's control, when the prefrontal cortex has become so much eroded from the drug use, and when the midbrain has often become hijacked by the drug. So it's like driving a car without brakes. When your midbrain's hijacked for the substance, wired to get the substance, it's like having your foot on the accelerator. And when your prefrontal cortex part of our new brain, our more developed brain, when that functioning is eroded and when it's not all the way online, and maybe a lot offline, disabled in a lot of parts, that is the brakes. And it's like our brakes have gone out. So our foot's on the accelerator, the brakes are out. So if people that are our family and friends, if they don't understand just what addiction does to rewire the brain and how it literally hijacks a lot of our free will that we had before addiction, and then it becomes a much more obsessive compulsive process, this addictive process, people can be very judgmental if they don't know this stuff. If they look at it as addiction's a moral failing, it's a sign of no moral fiber, and you have low integrity and low values and low morals. Well, yeah, no wonder a lot of people don't feel comfortable at all telling their loved ones or telling even one loved one. And no wonder they're looking for other sources of accountability and support. I've corresponded with a ton of people that was their situation, and they wanted to like either work with a therapist or a counselor at an outpatient program or an inpatient program, or some type of coach, holistic coach or addiction coach. There's a lot of different professionals and even peers. There's a lot of different peers. A lot of people go to NA groups or AA groups and they get a sponsor. I mean, imagine all the support and accountability you get at these types of 12-step groups if that's something that resonates with that particular person. Those groups don't resonate with everyone, because it just goes back to that same tenet we'll keep coming back to. Many paths to recovery. There's no really wrong way to do it if you're not hurting anyone else or like hurting yourself and it's working for you. Then that's just what's resonating with you at the value level, at the belief system level, and maybe even at the soul level. Number 10 is that a person's Suboxone prescriber is not a board certified addiction medicine physician. A lot of times people will know how to prescribe Suboxone. They'll know how to prescribe Subutex. You have to go through, I think it's a 1 day training. It's somewhere between 4 and 8 hours, I believe. There's a special type of certification that a doctor needs to go through to be able to prescribe buprenorphine formulations. I know there's been a lot of back and forth recently, probably in the past, 6 to 8 months, somewhere around there, where they're trying to get it to where no doctors at all need to do this special certification, to where now all physicians, all MDs can prescribe buprenorphine formulations. So I'm not sure where this is at right now. It looked like at the end of the Trump administration, they had made it right at the very end, they had made it to where they waived that certification to where any physician in America could prescribe buprenorphine formulations, which kind of makes sense, I guess, because if they can prescribe Oxycontin, if they can prescribe Opana and fentanyl lollipops, all these full opioid agonists. Why can't they prescribe a partial opioid agonist that is less addictive and much safer? Then, when the Biden administration came in, they overturned that, and they're like, "No, we're overturning this right away." So that never went through. And then since then, I swear it might have flip flopped another time or two. So I'm not sure where it's at, but a lot of people, their doctors know how to prescribe buprenorphine formulations like Suboxone. They know how to do an intake. They know how to do a Suboxone induction, how to train the person on how long to wait after their last dose of their particular opioid or opioids they're taking. So, a lot of these doctors prescribing Suboxone, they're really good at prescribing it, at helping people to break the chains of active opioid addiction with this replacement medication. It's got the slow onset, slow offset. It blocks the buprenorphine, blocks the effects of other opioids and full opioid agonists, even if there's adequate supply of the buprenorphine in the mu opioid receptors. However, when it comes to helping people to either taper or detox off of Suboxone, unfortunately, if somebody is not board certified in addiction medicine, if this isn't not only a specialty in medicine of theirs, and they're also not passionate about it, there's only, unfortunately, there's only so much help they can actually offer. Doctors traditionally, even going through all that medical school, all that internship, they they spend very little time learning about addiction, and they spend very little time learning about drug withdrawal, and very little time on nutrition and lifestyle strategies like this. There's nothing wrong with that at all. There's a great purpose for them. We got a lot of great doctors, but when it comes to two people that are both wanting to get off Suboxone, oftentimes the person that their buprenorphine prescriber is board certified in addiction medicine. Usually, that type of a specialty doctor is going to have a lot more education and input and strategies and tactics and, you know, protocols, detox protocols for tapering off of Suboxone, for detoxing off of it. Two of the best addiction medicine doctors that I know, I'm personally friends and colleagues with one of them. That's Dr. Ken Starr, who owns and operates. He's the founder of Ken Starr MD Wellness Group. That's in Arroyo Grande here in California, where I live. I live in Southern California. His clinic, his outpatient treatment program, is in Central California, pretty close to San Luis Obispo. Dr. Ken Starr is twice board certified in addiction medicine. He has the longest running NAD infusion therapy detox protocols on the whole entire West Coast. He was trained personally by Dick Madier, the main doctor at Springfield Wellness Center in Louisiana, where they do brain restoration therapy as a form of Suboxone detox and Subutex detox and methadone detox. So Dr. Starr at his facility, again, he's twice board certified in addiction medicine. They got a really beautiful outpatient treatment program. They have like intensive outpatient with counseling and all that kind of stuff that goes with it, and group therapy. He also has a supplement store there that's some of his brand of supplements and a lot of other supplements that, they're not his brand at all, but he just loves them. I've tried many of the supplements at that website. What is it? I think it's getcleansupplements.com. And, some of those are ones that I literally don't even want to live without anymore, like Neuro Restore, the real NAD Easy Melts. I'm really looking forward to trying his supplement called Rest. And I've tried several others too. Another addiction medicine physician that prescribes Suboxone. Oh, backing up, Dr. Starr also prescribes Suboxone, other buprenorphine formulations. And he helps people to, use these medicines, Suboxone and other medicines, to break their chains of opioid addiction, then to help them either taper off if that's what they want to do, or how to get them set up for success in Suboxone maintenance therapy, which instead of detoxing off over the span of, a couple weeks or something, or a couple months, they're doing it for maybe 6 months to a year, or even longer, even a few years longer, maybe even further than that. Each situation, each person is at where they're at. And so Dr. Starr is one of those physicians. He meets people where they're at. He's brilliant when it comes to his addiction medicine, detox protocols for opioids, alcohol, and benzos. Those are his three main specialties. They got the NSS2 bridge device for detox there, NAD infusion therapy, ketamine infusion therapy, just wellness shots, injections of nutrients, IV nutrients, trying to think what else they have there. I think I've covered most of the main aspects, but yeah, really cool addiction detox and tapering protocols. Another doctor that I know is absolutely phenomenal. His YouTube channel is growing like crazy. He's got a gigantic TikTok channel. His name is Dr. B. And so if you look for him on YouTube, it's under Dr. B Addiction Recovery. I'm pretty sure that's the name on TikTok as well. And he creates videos after videos and these podcasts, these live podcasts where there's a group chat going on and they're answering questions. Dr. B and his co-host, who I believe he's got a lot of certifications in alcohol and drug counseling. He's been doing it for a long time. I forget his name, but man, the combination of them is really dynamic, really powerful. They're so compassionate. And so that just shows you, like, when you have an addiction medicine physician that knows their shit, they're going to be able to help you to get off of Suboxone. If you just have a regular doctor that doesn't know too much about addiction, then that's just, they're probably not going to be a whole lot of help. I could be wrong. I'm sure there's some doctors out there that have no board certification whatsoever in addiction, yet they still know how to help people quite well. It's just not very super common. Reason number 11 is that the person simply doesn't know how to taper off or how to detox off Suboxone, or what they've learned or what they've used or what they've heard about, for example, has not worked for them, or they don't believe it'll work for them personally, or they do believe it could work, but believe it'll be much too difficult for them personally. And it goes with their beliefs, which we're going to come up to. So yeah, that's one of the reasons I'm making this training series. Is a lot of people simply do not know an effective protocol for coming off of their situation on Suboxone, or their situation on Subutex, or their situation on Zubsolv or Sublocade or Buprenorphine, the generic. And so this can also go back to who's actually prescribing their medication. For people where their doctors are just kind of clueless, they know how to prescribe it, they know how to help people, get on it and, stabilize and stuff and break free of addiction, but then they don't necessarily know how to help them through potentially a very difficult process of tapering off or detoxing off. And so a lot of times, if your doctor doesn't know too much about it, well, then you might be screwed, unless you're some type of analytical person that just loves to spend a lot of their free time learning about all this stuff online, in books, wherever. But also, when it comes to learning online, there's a lot of kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Different types of advice that maybe can contradict each other. And so, differing opinions, lots of horror stories. Oh, just look online if you want to get discouraged about your ability to quit Suboxone. Yeah, there's some great success stories. There's also some great tips. There's plenty of great information. Unfortunately, there's also some bad information. There's some stuff where it seems very scary. Now, the important thing to remember when you're looking at all this info online and when you're listening to any other person is that just because one person had a really bad experience, that doesn't mean that Suboxone is horrible and no one should get on it. That doesn't mean that it's going to be really hard and just super difficult for everyone. No way. It's a very limiting belief for a person to think that their experience on Suboxone, their experience transitioning off Suboxone and going through withdrawal symptoms, for example, that's the one experience that everyone else is going to have, or something close to it. There is a lot of different scenarios. And so, yeah, that's a pretty big reason for quite a few people that they're still on Suboxone or still on another medication like this. They simply either don't know what to do, or they've learned a lot of things to do, or some things that they can do, but they just aren't sure that it's going to be effective for them. And like we talked about before, the pain and the suffering of the situation that they're in already, and that they've been living through, and that they're familiar with, and even in a sick kind of sense, like comfortable with, like it's very uncomfortable. But when you're used to something, that can be easy for people to stay in that situation versus trading that in for another uncomfortable situation that they're not certain about, that's going to be a lot of change, and they're not even sure what the ultimate outcome will be. So they keep kicking the can down the road, no one holding them accountable, maybe. And then it's just, as you can see, as we're going through this long, extensive list, you can see crystal clear. No wonder there's so many people in America and the other countries that prescribe this, where there's so many people on these medicines long term, well after the point that they've really wanted to get off, after the long-term side effects have started to increase, and the long-term effectiveness of the medicine has started to decrease. So there's this decreasing benefits, increasing long-term side effects, negative consequences. You get a diminishing return. At the beginning, the cost benefit analysis of getting on Suboxone or another buprenorphine formulation is usually really, really high benefit, not a lot of cost. When it comes to breaking free of a opioid addiction that can be, you can overdose and die. So many bad things can happen, especially when people are using street drugs, street oxys, and street stuff cut with fentanyl. So dangerous. So of course, the opportunity to get on Suboxone or another medicine like it, that's going to be almost a no-brainer for a lot of people. And so I totally get that. It was for me, and it helped me out. Suboxone helped me out through a really tough time. All right, now it's time for number 12. And I'm starting to realize right now that this is going to be a much, much, much longer video than I had intended. And so I guess I'm going to find out who the people that really want this to achieve this goal are. Because for anyone to watch this entire video, I know for a fact that they want off this medicine so bad. So at some point, I know I'm going to be losing some people because this is just going on for so long. But here we go. I'm still going for you. Number 12 is the three fears.